Is Mafia 2 Definitive Edition any good? Let's talk about that after we read the description of the game. War hero Vito Scaletta becomes entangled in the mob in hopes of paying his father's debts. Vito works to prove himself, climbing the family ladder with crimes of larger reward and consequence. Why did I say that so weird? I don't know. But again, the description is more of a tiny little description of the story, though this description isn't really as good, I don't think, as like the first game's description, but just I don't think it's a good description, to be honest with you. Also, I want to say that I never played the classic version, so I don't know how different the classic version is to the definitive edition, though I've heard that it's actually not that different. First, let's talk about the performance. Just like the first game, this is starting to become a trend with these games. Hopefully, I don't have to talk about the performance in the third one, but this game has problems just like the first game. This game randomly drops frames a lot for no reason, and Molotovs break the game. Whenever you throw a Molotov, it lowers the frame rate to around 20 to 29 frames, which is horrible, or at least it did for me. Every time I threw a Molotov, the game would break and it would go down to 20 frames.
Okay, that's enough. Let's leave him a little present. Vito, Marty, I got some Molotov cocktails in the trunk. Go get them and throw them in.
My pleasure, Steve.
Just like the first game, there's a lot of driving and cutscenes. The driving is good, not great, but it's good. The driving seems a bit more floaty and slippery. It always seems like you're driving on ice in this game compared to the first game. The gunplay, on the other hand, is actually worse than the first game, which is crazy to think about. Recoil is crazy on guns, like a bit too much. I know some people are going to say, you know, that gun has a lot of recoil, but like, it's just, on certain guns, it's just way too much recoil. It's like super hard to hit something, especially with like the grease gun. That gun has so much recoil, and it's just like all over the place. Like, most of the bullets when you shoot in that gun are not going to hit anybody. But I'm going to be honest here, the recoil, the crazy amounts of recoil, just the recoil in general, it's kind of personal preference, and it really doesn't matter that much. I'm going to tell you the biggest problem with the gunplay. The cover mechanic, it's terrible, it's awful. It's like the lowest effort third-person cover mechanic I've ever seen. You have to press a button to get behind cover, and when you do that, you get stuck to the wall, so you can't move, and you have to press that button again to be able to get off the wall. Unlike the first game, where if you did press the button to get behind cover, you could like try to run backwards or something. So on PC, you know, you press like S to go backwards or something, and you could actually disconnect from the wall and like crouch walk away from the cover. But in this game, you are stuck. You are glued to that cover unless you press that button again, and you cannot move. You also can't crouch in this game, so if you don't press that button, you can't take cover period behind anything because you can't crouch. Your guy just like slightly bends over and looks at the ground. There is no crouching in this game, so you have to use this cover mechanic. You also can't blind fire behind cover in a third person shooter. So in the game, in the first game, when you got behind cover, when you use the cover mechanic, you could blind fire. Of course, your accuracy is going to go down, but you're shooting bullets at the enemies. In this game, you can't do that. So every time you want to shoot, you have to pop out of cover. You have to peek around or above the cover to shoot at the enemies, and the enemies are just going to have some easy targets once in a while. This mechanic is just messed up, it's broken, and it's somehow worse than the first one. I mean, usually when you go from the first game to the second game, you expect everything to be upgraded and improved, but somehow from the first game to the second game, it actually got downgraded, which is just crazy to think about. Also, on the other hand, you can't blind fire, but the enemies can actually blind fire. So they can shoot at you without peeking around or above cover, so you know they don't have to peek their head out, but you have to peek your head out to shoot at them. It's broken and awful. Anyways, moving on, the police AI is also worse than the first game. The police can be chasing you, and you can just turn a corner and then they just give up on you. In fact, you can escape very easily and then turn around, drive past the cops that were just chasing you, and they won't even know it's you, and they won't even do a single thing, even though supposedly in this game it has a new mechanic where they can mark your car and the clothes that you're wearing, but they just give up so easily. I've never seen the cops in this game even put up blockades like they do in the first game to try to stop you from driving down the roads, to try to block you. Like, you know, that's how blockades are. They try to block you. In the first game, they would do that all the time. They would put some blockades up in the road that they think you're going to go down, and then, you know, try to block you. Not in this game. In this game, they don't really care, because you can speed right past them, or you can slowly drive past them, and they can be chasing you, and you just turn a corner, maybe two corners, maybe it takes two corners, it really don't matter. You can escape from the cops so easily. It's almost upsetting. Like, the whole time I didn't even care that my vehicle was wanted or the clothes I was wearing was wanted, because you can just escape so easily. So there was no, like, I wasn't thinking, hey, let me go maybe get a different car or make this car, you know, not wanted again by like repainting it and get different license plates and change my clothes. I didn't even think about that, because you could just escape so easily. So what's the point? The melee combat is also bad. It's better than the first game, but it's also bad. Some people might like it, but I didn't, even though it is better than the first game. Mostly because the first game was very easy. You like press left alt and then Q, and then boom, you're done. You're beating them up in that game, or at least on PC. Again, on controller, it really doesn't matter. The combat in the first game is like a 2-button system. You press this to dodge, you press this to hit. In this game, it's a 3-button system. You have light attacks, heavy attacks, and then if you hold the button, no matter what, you don't have to like press the button to like try to dodge or block their punch at the right time. You just hold it and you automatically dodge all their punches until you let go of that button. But this one is a bit harder than the first game, because you do actually have to you know, block, and you have to hold that button, and like just after their punch you can do a counterattack. It's a little bit harder than the first game, because again, the first game was just very easy, but once you get a hang of this game, it's also very easy. It's just there's a little bit more to learn, but it's still not very good. It's still kind of boring. Though I will say the punches actually feel good, because when you hit the enemy, there's some good feedback, and like the enemy gets knocked back a little, and sometimes if you hit them hard enough with a heavy attack, you can knock them to the ground, and then you pick them up and do your finisher, and the sound effects and stuff are good. But overall, I just didn't really care for the melee combat. One of my favorite things about this game is when you get into the gunfights, there's a lot of effects and things getting shot apart, which I showed you earlier. The main problem is sometimes that can actually lower your frame rate for some reason, but there's just a bunch of things exploding, bottles breaking, things breaking apart when it gets shot, and it just looks awesome, because it's like you get to the location and then a shootout happens, and then it actually looks like the place has been shot up, and like there's a big gunfight there or something when you're done fighting. And I don't know, I just like breaking things, so anytime that you can just start breaking things and things break apart in the map and you shoot them and they break apart, That's always fun.
That little fuck. Little cocksucker's gonna piss his...
Here they come.
Throwing grenades and Molotovs in the first game, it was, you know, you press a button and your guy either flicks his wrist and throws the Molotov or grenade, or just like tosses them over his shoulder. In this game, it's not that. You actually have to equip the grenade or Molotov and then like peek around cover, or if you're not behind cover, you have to, you know, aim where you're gonna throw it and then chuck the grenade. There's no like what do you call it, like line, I don't know what you call it. I'm actually forgetting what you call it, but it basically tells you where the projectile is going to land. Not in this game. You throw it and it goes in that direction and you don't know exactly where it's going to land, but the explosions and the fire is great. Only if the Molotovs didn't lower your frame rate, it would have been probably perfect throwing grenades and Molotovs in this game. Last but not least on the gameplay, the AI can also sometimes hit you even when you're behind cover. Sometimes they'll hit like your elbow or your arm or something when you're too close to the edge behind the cover. It's kind of weird, and you also can't blind fire, and they're blind firing and hitting you. I'm just going to point that out again. But they can also just hit you while they're turning around. They could not even be looking at you, and while they're turning around with their Tommy gun or their machine gun, boom, they're hitting you. Boom, 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 boom. You're getting shot while they're turning around. The graphics actually don't look bad. They actually look decent and sometimes good for a 2010 game. But last time I checked, this is a remaster and it's not 2010. Now, I haven't played the original, but from what I've seen from screenshots and some clips, they haven't really changed the graphics at all. I think the only thing that they changed graphically is some lighting. And I remember this screenshot. If I can find it again, it's going to pop up right now. And the only difference is that literally they added a light bulb to have some light in the scene. That is the only graphical change that they did in this cutscene. And just overall, the graphics, they're good for a 2010 game. But they're not good for a remaster game that is in 2021. I think this remaster came out. I think the trilogy remaster came out like this year or last year, and they didn't bother doing anything with the graphics or really anything at all. There is also graphical glitches that happen in this game, and some of them are just horrifying. I mean, just take a look.
Jeez, I thought you was gonna be a no-show. Not bad, nice material.
Thanks. So, what's the plan for tonight?
You'll find out. A friend of mine's coming to pick us up. I met him when you was on your little vacation. And show him some respect. He's kind of an important guy.
Just gonna clean it up. There's a big meeting starting soon. And the boss ain't gonna be too happy if the place ain't...
It's just a question of whether I'm gonna be nice enough to fucking kill you first. It's just a question.
Mafia's 2 story was the main reason I actually kept playing this game. It grabbed me, it gripped me, it was interesting, I liked the characters, I wanted to see where the story was going to go. I started to get very invested in the story, and without any major spoilers, there's a slight connection with the first game's story, but ultimately this game's story disappointed me. You know why? Do you want to know why? Because there is no conclusion to this story, to this game. That's right. At the end, the game just fades to black and then rolls the credits. I was left there saying, is this it? Is this it? Don't roll credits. Why is the camera zooming out? Why is it fading to black? I know this is not it. But no, that was the end of the game. Yeah, it just fades to black. So the main thing that kept me going through this entire game ended up being the biggest disappointment, because I was actually enjoying the story and then the huge disappointment that fell upon me when I got to the end of the game. The soundtrack is great. It fits the time period, at least I think it does. I didn't really care for the soundtrack right at the beginning of the game when it was all snowy and stuff, but when it's not snowy, they switch it, because when it's snowy, they kind of play a lot of Christmas music, and I didn't want to listen to Christmas music right then. So when the game switched and it didn't play Christmas music, I liked the radio stations and stuff. And part of me thinks I like the radio stations because it felt like I was actually listening to some Fallout radio stations, because Fallout and this game share a lot of the same like old-timey songs. So if you like the Fallout radio stations, you'll probably enjoy listening to the Mafia 2 radio stations. I would not recommend Mafia 2 Definitive Edition because the cover system sucks. It's worse than the first game. There is no blind fire and you can't crouch behind things. The story is disappointing. The graphics didn't get remastered and they look like 2010, which means they didn't really bother remastering the graphics, and I don't think they really bothered remastering this game at all. Overall, I don't think this game is a good remaster and not a good definitive edition, so therefore it is not recommended. I also just want to point out that only 29.1% of people that own this game on Steam completed this game, and only 8.5% of the people that completed the game finished the game on hard difficulty. I mean, can we get some more people that play games on hard difficulty? Can we just get a little bit? Can we get the 8% to go up to 10% at least? Anyways, that's all I gotta say for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. Leave a comment below, tell me what you guys think about this game, what you guys think about the remaster / definitive edition, and let me know what you think about this video. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you guys want to be subscribed, and I'll see you guys next time.